Watch this video if you're looking for practical chess tips for beginner and intermediate level players. Hello everyone, I am Grandmaster and FIDE trainer Priyadharshan Kannappan, founder of Chess Gaja Academy. So in the last newsletter, we had asked our subscribers if you have any chess questions to, fill out a Google form so that we could answer your chess queries and help you get better at the game. And we received a bunch of queries from, students and subscribers and all of them. So I've handpicked a few of those questions and I thought I'll answer those and also give my perspective on chess improvement through those questions and help you get better at the game. So the first question that we've got is from one of our students who had asked, like, as a developing player, I struggle most with calculating accurately in complex positions and predicting my opponent's plans. Can you share a practical method or daily exercise to improve in these areas and avoid blunders under time pressure? So if I have to kind of, rephrase the question, put it in perspective, basically the question is, how do we calculate? That's kind of the crux of the question. And how do we anticipate what our opponent is planning to play? So calculation is a very, very vast topic, and it's one of the most important topics in chess because chess is getting increasingly faster in terms of time control. So you need to calculate a lot of things in a very short span of time. And one key thing, if you want to be really good at calculation, is that you have to be really good at visualization. What I mean by visualization is you should be able to move the pieces on your head and have the correct image of the position when you're calculating like long variations. Even I'm talking 3 to 5 move variations, not like 10 move variations. Because often I see students, getting stuck after 2 or 3 moves. They are not able to remember where the pieces are. So visualization becomes very crucial to be really good at calculation. And what can we do for visualization? A good way, I would say, to like improve your visualization skills is to solve puzzles without moving pieces on the board. And these days, there are a lot of apps that where you can solve your puzzles, like blindfold puzzles or pieceless tactics. So one such website which I would strongly suggest is something called listudy.org. It is listudy.org. So there is something called blind tactics as well as pieceless tactics in it. And I think either of it would really help in the visualization part. So definitely check out that site. It's a free site. And, instead of normally solving a puzzle on chess.com or Chess, the puzzles that you could solve in Lee Study adds one additional layer of kind of like toughness to the puzzle, and that helps you to get better at visualization. So if you can visualize good or great, then your calculation will naturally improve. So that is one important aspect of how you can improve your calculation. And other than that, what I would say is generally long calculation means wrong calculation, because in a game, only 3 or 4 times you will reach very critical moments where you would need to spend more than 5 minutes to calculate. So if every decision looks like a critical decision where you have to spend 5 minutes or more on your clock to calculate, most likely you're completely misjudging the position. And so, because if you completely misjudge the position and spend 5 minutes per move, you are going to definitely run into time trouble. And in time trouble, we all know we make poor decisions generally. So it's important that you identify what's a critical moment and spend the 5 minutes or more only in those moments. In other moments which are not that critical, you should trust your intuition, do a quick blunder check, and kind of quickly grasp what opponent is planning to do and play your move. That is what I would say. And about the second part of the question, which was, how do I predict my opponent's plan? That was asked by this particular student. I would say, look at what your opponent has just played on the board and try to see why they did. Every idea a player plays, either it would be a good or a bad idea, but it will have some idea what your opponent is playing. So try to see what is the logic behind it. If it's a bad idea, you should actually allow them to execute it, because then it's going to be in your favor. If they have a good idea behind the move they have just played, then you could do prophylaxis, stopping their idea, and in the meantime, slightly improving your position, or letting them execute their idea, but you have something even better than that for you on your own to execute for your side. So this is the kind of an answer I would say for this question. I hope it gives some added clarity to the student who asked this question. Going to the second question, this was also from a student in the academy, and it's from a 12-year-old student. And the question is like, what is the best opening with a guaranteed win, even after a blunder or any kind of mistakes? An opening which will guarantee a loss-proof game in every phase, may it be opening, middle game, end game. And the student asked, can you suggest one for white and one for black? Uh, so there is definitely no such opening that would guarantee you a win. If there was one, then chess would basically be solved. So in principle, I would always suggest play like the main lines, the lines that are played by a lot of the top players and are very popular. For example, with white side, if you are an amateur player, learn e4 or d4 as white as starting moves. And when you go to intermediate level, you can consider moves like one knight f3 even as starting. But when you are an amateur player and all that, you should learn the principled moves, fighting for the center with e4 and d4. One or the other, I have no preference between this and that, even though I'm predominantly an one e4 player with white. And as black side, let's say for if you face e4, you should show something very principled here as well, like Rilopus or Sicilian. And if d4 white plays as black, you could play something very principled like Nimzo Indian or Queen's Gambit accepted or declined or Slav, these kind of openings if you're an amateur player. And you don't have to know like 15 moves of theory or anything as such. You should just need to know the setup, where the pieces should go, and like how to kind of reach the middle game. This is if you're an amateur player. So if you're an intermediate player, someone with a, let's say, an approximate rating, FIDE rating around 1400, 1500, if you are FIDE rated around that, I would say you're around intermediate level. In this scenario, you definitely need to know a bit more in depth of your openings. And you can also add small additional varieties. For example, let's say if you are normally a e4 player with white, and for let's say Rilopus, you could have two choices to play. You could play Rilopus, you could also add Gyuccio Piano if you want to, or the Italian game if you want to. Like this, you could add some variety. But the key thing when you are a young and upcoming player or an amateur and intermediate player is you should get a lot of experience in the openings that you play. So if you change your opening every game to some other new opening, some other new opening, you will not build that experience and understanding for the opening that you play. So, to the student who asked this question, there is no guaranteed opening that will guarantee you a win, either color. But if you learn the principled openings as white and as well as black, it will be a very good, basement or like initial, setup for you to build on top of it your chess mastery as you get to become a stronger chess player. The problem is many young players, they when they are very young, they start playing very kind of silly gambits or dubious gambits. They get very attracted to those and they play it. But what ends up happening is, it helps them to score a few points very easily. but their opponents will easily figure out, okay, this is what I'm going to face the next time I play this player. And at that time, they'll come better prepared, and these gambits are generally dubious. So the opponent would come better prepared and get an advantage straight out of the opening. And here you have to again scramble to find a new gambit or a new variation. And this is going to actually take more time for you to prepare multiple gambits again and again and again to keep on surprising your opponent. Instead of learning one main line or proper theory, which could take longer time initially to learn, but if you learn it, it becomes much easier. So some of you, if you go through my player profile, I actually did play a lot of sidelines when I was a 2200, 2300 rated player. But there is a key thing which I added, that I played it when I was past 2200 rating. Because at that point in time, you understand all the openings fairly okay or fairly good. So you can experiment a lot. But if you're a beginner or an amateur or an intermediate player, you should try to stick to the main principal lines, fighting for the center, developing your king or castling your king safe very quickly in the game, and so on. Those kind of systems, please prefer. So far I've answered two of our questions from our the Ask a Grandmaster feature in our Chess Gaja's newsletter. So to the audience, if you haven't yet subscribed to Chess Gaja's newsletter, you can subscribe to it by visiting our website and giving your details. You will get added to very good chess tips and also these kind of features where I get to answer questions of not just the academy students, but anyone who is a subscriber to our newsletter. Also, one more thing I wanted to mention to anyone who is watching this video. We are launching a Grandmaster program where I am going to personally teach for students rated around 1500 FIDE, and this program is going to start in January 2026. You will see the poster of this program and all the registration related details. And this is going to be a great group class kind of a setting. And we are going to only allow 15 students and with a very clear rating range. And I'm going to talk a lot about opening related topics in this program. So if you're interested, please definitely check it out and consider enrolling for it. And remember, there are only 15 seats. So the seats could, register anytime soon. So reserve your seat as quickly as possible. So coming back to this Ask a Grandmaster, I have two more questions that was asked to me, and one of it was from one of chess coaches who has asked me like, during preparation, if you come across a move which is recommended as the best by chess books or engine, but you like another move considered inferior to the previous suggestion, but you like the position, the plan, and the strategy it follows, what to do? Would you go with the plan that is to choose the best move, or would you choose the plan that you feel most comfortable? So over here, again, this answer, I would split it by the rating of the player. If you are in a beginner or intermediate level player, and as long as the move that you like to play is not a blunder or something really, really bad, I would say you should try to get a good understanding of that inferior move, and you kind of get a good understanding of the pawn structure and the positions that you get. You can definitely go and choose that inferior move instead of playing the move that is recommended best as books or engine. The reason is, the books or engine will suggest absolute best move, but it might require a higher level of thinking or understanding required to see the logic behind that line. So, for example, let's say there is a pawn sacrifice line that comes up in Marshall attack, in Rai Lopez Marshall, let's say. So as black, Marshall is considered one of the best ways to kind of neutralize or equalize position in black side in Rai Lopez. But can a beginner or an intermediate player learn Marshall and execute it flawlessly as black? Not really. I would say, a black side player might be more comfortable playing maybe an arcangles or neo arcangles, or like let's say the open variation of Rai Lopez and so on. So if that is what they are more comfortable playing, then they should choose the something that they can better understand and better execute it on the board. Because even if you play a brilliant variation, but let's say at the end of the variation or the preparation, if you are not sure how to handle the position from there, you are definitely going to make mistakes and you are going to like get into a bad position. So if we look at this from a top level theory, let's say a grandmaster level theory, you actually see quite often strong players now choosing, let's say, like the second or third best move in a position, not the topmost move. So what they are trying to do here is, all the top players analyze openings extensively. So more or less all of them have figured out what's the absolute best move and how to respond to that and so on. So here what they are trying to do by playing the second best move or the third best move or something slightly inferior, they are trying to catch the opponent outside the opening preparation. So here it purely boils down to who understands positions very well. A good recent example of this would be the game that Hari Krishna, Indian Grandmaster Hari Krishna, played in the World Cup, where he sacrificed a queen in the Petrov defense with white side. So if you run it with the computer engines and evaluation, it would say it's like, black is absolutely fine. Black is actually even slightly better and so on. But Black could not figure it out over the board, and Black actually like lost, and it was a brilliant play by Hari Krishna. If you haven't seen that game, definitely check it out. I think the opponent's name was something like Nesterov, if I'm not wrong. I will definitely try to provide the game's URL on the description so you can see that game. So this is what I would say. Better to choose a comfortable line, even if it is slightly inferior, as long as it's not like a terrible one where, if your opponent plays right, you're just going to lose. If the line is like that, avoid it. But it's only marginally worse. Definitely you can consider choosing the line that you like to play if you're in beginner or intermediate level player. So coming to the fourth and final question, this is asked by a student as well. Like how do we recover after a mistake and play good? Especially let's say we make a blunder on the board, how do we recover from it? This is kind of the question. First of all, blunder is definitely a very, like a disastrous thing for us, right? It'll completely throw our, like mindset the moment we notice that we have blundered or the moment when our opponent, kind of exploits the blunder that we make. So once we make a blunder, how do we recover? Kind of is the question, I would say. And my answer to it is tough. You have to forget what you have just blundered and look at the position and try to see what are still the positives that you have in the position. Like you will still have some strengths here and there. The position would not be absolutely terrible. You will still have minor, maybe a slightly better pawn structure or some sort of like better piece placement. At least your knights might be better placed than the opponent's knight. So still, you can find some strengths and also look carefully for the opponent's weaknesses. There might be a one weak pawn hanging somewhere or a doubled pawn that can be attacked easily somewhere. So try to identify these minor weaknesses or major weaknesses in opponent's position and whatever is the remaining strength you have. So now try to combine those strengths that you have with those weaknesses of opponent and try to build some plans if possible. So this is how you have to recover the moment you make a blunder and if your opponent has exploited it. And one thing, it might work, it might not work, is let's say you blundered and you realize that you blundered. Try to keep a poker face. Don't react, like very expressively on the board because then your opponent will most likely figure out something is not right or that you have blundered. Another thing could be like you could get up and walk away from the board if you are normally a very expressive person so that your opponent cannot figure out your expressions. And go have, let's say, a very cold like face wash so that you kind of bring back your attention to the board. Generally, when does blunders happen? When we kind of lose concentration, or we don't properly understand or observe where our pieces are and where our opponent's pieces are. So, a cold face wash, kind of can bring back the concentration back to the board and can help you to kind of, regroup your thought process and to recover from the mistake and defense. And one of the brilliant things I would say is not brilliant, but more like a great skill to have for players who really want to get better at chess is like the ability to defend worse positions. If you can save a lot of losing positions to a draw or drawing positions to a win, something like that, you can actually score a lot of points. And defense is a very, very underrated skill. People absolutely love to learn how to attack and so on. But people or students generally don't spend that much time trying to, learn how to defend, how to, find ideas in difficult positions and so on. There are a lot of good, useful material out there. If you Google, you can find, defensive resource kind of material out there. And, and one way I would say is, let's say if you get a worse position, something in from your own game, what you could do is you could play it against a computer engine, which is, let's say, around 150, 200 points lower than your strength. So the computer would take the stronger side, the side with the advantage, and you should take the side where you are defending. Let's say the evaluation is something like -1, something like that of a position. So you take 5, 10 positions like this and constantly play with the computer, let's say a 5+2 or a 10+2 game, and try to see how many times you're able to hold or put the best possible defense. And let's assume you do very poorly, you are not able to defend. Now just flip the colors and ask the computer to defend, with the computer being around 150 points stronger than your rating level. Now you will see a tremendous amount of fighting ideas from the computer, defensive resources. Then it will give you an idea of how defense works. And these are all very practical tips. So you can pull positions from your own games and practice it out with Stockfish or any engine out there which can play, where you can simulate the strength and accordingly. So these are 4 questions that I wanted to answer from this month's Ask a Grandmaster series in the Chess Gaja's newsletter. So we will be doing more of this every month. So if you have more questions, please definitely ask them. I would be very happy to answer them. And, if I hope, whatever chess knowledge that I have, I'll be very happy to share it with the community. And if you do like this video, definitely do, check out the other videos in Chess Gaja's channel. We have a lot of chess improvement videos. Some chess entertainment videos are also there. A lot of chess education videos are there. So do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and also let your friends know about the newsletter so they can also ask more questions. And also, share this video to your friends and family if you think it's very useful for chess improvement. So signing off is Grandmaster and FIDE trainer Priyadarshan Kannappan from Chess Gaja Academy. I will see you once again in another chess video. Bye bye.